SANDHAN, All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Thank you for the invitation to speak on learning paradigms and also a bit on the e-learning experiment that the Government of India and many of us in the project are involved. Okay. The title of my presentation to you is given here. It's called Emerging Learning Paradigms on the Internet. Some drivers for the evolution of universities, unitary universities as I call them, but we will find out what the drivers are. Okay. Let me introduce myself. I am Mangala Sunder Krishnan. I am a professor of chemistry in the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, and I am involved in the national project on technology enhanced learning. A lot of what I have to say and I have learned from many of you has also been passed on to me by my very distinguished colleague who is no more with us, Professor Paul Goodman. Professor Paul Goodman was a professor of cognitive psychology whom I first came to know in 1999 when I was part of the organization of the technology workshop in IIT Madras. Professor Goodman has ever since been one of my greatest friends and mentors in the area of technology and technology enhanced education. Unfortunately, he passed away last year. He was the world-renowned psychologist and researcher, and also he was the author and filmmaker. For those of you who know what is meant by the Bombay Dabbawala movie, which made into the world and to the history books, it was made by Professor Paul. Paul was primarily also a distance learning expert. Okay. I have a fairly large number of items to talk to you, but let me do in the first half of this lecture, which has been divided into two parts. I would discuss three topics to begin with. A little bit on the open educational resources online that are currently available, a bit on the technology tools for the asking, things which are already available to us and almost free, and also a lot of content online which has been developed tailored to curriculum. These three things, let me concentrate on the first part of the talk. The other aspects we will continue in the second part of this lecture. To begin with, I would like to introduce to some of you, at least those of you who are not familiar with, what are the current national efforts and a little bit on the international efforts. I'm not the authority to speak on all the international efforts, but I would point out to some things that I am familiar with, and also beyond what are called the OERs, or the open educational resources. This phrase was first coined by the UNESCO, I believe in 2002, and it's an indicator for driving learning through community participation, educational community participation in particular, through free and open resources. The most important program in the last 10 years to have emerged from India on the open educational resources is the National Program on Technology Enhanced Learning, and it's abbreviated as NPTEL. It was conceived around 1999, and the funding from the Government of India came in 2003. And the program has been fully supported by the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. And it's a partnership between many institutions. In addition, we have a large number of other initiatives like the Virtual Labs project, e-Gyan Kosh project, design called the e-Kalpa, the University Grants Commission's funded laboratories known as the Educational Multimedia Resource Centers under this Consortium of Educational Communication, UGC-CEC. They have been entrusted with the creation of a large number of undergraduate course contents. And there are many other projects and programs. I would only talk a little bit about them given the time frame. What happens to these efforts in other parts of the world? Many Asian universities and Asian institutions are involved in the creation of knowledge. Some of the countries which have contributed a lot are given here: Japan, Korea, China, Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam are some of the countries. There are many others. And to get a complete overview of some of the latest efforts, I would request you to refer to this particular compendium known as the Open Educational Resources and Asian Perspective. This is edited by a very distinguished academician and also the Vice Chancellor of Malaysian Open University, Professor Gajaraj Dhanarajan. David Potter is the co-author. This book is published by the Commonwealth of Learning, Vancouver, and it's freely available on the internet. From United States alone, I have listed some of the early to the latest initiatives. Project Gutenberg was the project that started with the purpose of digitizing a lot of textbooks and literature, information, and free books on the internet. It started even before email and internet came in. Many of you are familiar with Google Books, where Google hosts some of the chapters of books which have been permitted to be provided free on the internet form. The open courseware of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, incidentally started in the same year that NPTEL project was conceived, 1999. Professor Charles West announced the availability of the entire MIT's teaching, learning materials, and he said they would be freely available to the rest of the world over 5-10 years, a little more than 3,000 courses. It's one of the largest open courseware consortium that we have today in the world. British Open University has a very large number of very beautifully organized, pedagogically and academically structured educational and training materials. Stanford University has many of its lectures on the iTunes, and there are many courses in the Stanford website which are free. In my personal view, probably the most beautiful e-learning content, and which is completely open, is the initiative by the Carnegie Mellon University known as the Open Learning Initiative. If you need to know how to structure your web-based or e-learning educational material, please have a look at the 20-odd courses that the OLI platform hosts. Yale University has come online. Harvard University is coming online. University of California, Berkeley is coming online. And there are many other universities which are providing online materials for free access. And if you want to have a comprehensive list on all these subjects, at least until last year, please follow the link that you find in this slide at the last line. Let me pay or restrict my attention to one program with which I have been involved from the beginning, the National Program on Technology Enhanced Learning, which is a joint program between IITs and the Indian Institute of Science. IITs stand for the Indian Institutes of Technology. When we came up with this program, there were 7 IITs: the IIT Bombay, IIT Delhi, IIT Guwahati, IIT Kanpur, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Madras, and IIT Roorkee, and then Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. The 8 partner institutions came together in 2003 with a proposal to create a large number of course contents free for the engineering and technology students in India and abroad. I am one of the coordinators. I mentioned to you my name is Mangala Sunder. I am one of the national coordinators of the project. My other colleague, Professor Kushal Sen from IIT Delhi, who is a professor of textiles in the textiles department, is the other national coordinator. This whole program was initially brought to what it is today by the vision and the mission of Professor M.S. Anant, who was formerly the director of IIT Madras for the last 10 years before he moved on to the Indian Institute of Science as a visiting professor in the chemical engineering department. The current chairman of the NPTEL project is Professor Bhaskar Ramamurthy, who is also the director of IIT Madras and has been helping us enormously for the last 2 to 3 years in the creation and continuation of this project. Okay. As I mentioned, it's a joint initiative between the IITs and the IISc for creating a large number of course contents and distribute them publicly and using free platforms. The courses are initially in the area of engineering, core sciences and technology, but as we move further and as we move into the new decade and also over to the next few years, we are including as many courses in arts and humanities and management as possible. The details of all the courses which have been put forward and which are available to you can be found in this one website called the nptel.iitm.ac.in, and all the video lecture materials that have been put forward can be found in the YouTube site, which is commercial free, and it's one of the educational channels that YouTube has provided to many academic partners. In the beginning, there were 100 courses in the video format and 100 courses in the web-based format. And at the end of the first project period of about 4 years, all the institutions and more than about 300 professors created about 130 courses in the video format and 125 courses in the web format, and they are available on the website. There's a bar chart here which keeps changing pretty much every week depending on the availability of faculty and the commitment. But in the second phase, which is to end by another 2-3 months, we hope to have added about 900 courses, so that a very large number of engineering branches at the undergraduate level will have pretty much all the courses which are conducted, which are offered in many of the universities in India, and at least one form of a modularized reviewed electronic content would be available for these institutions. Why are we doing all these things? At some time later, I would like to tell you that this project started when we had very serious student-teacher ratio problems. The student-teacher ratio in India is somewhere between 75:1 or 100:1. Therefore, we are short of teachers of higher degree, like a master's degree or a doctoral degree. We are permanently in short, given that the student population has increased about 3 times to 4 times in the last 15 years. Therefore, these course contents are extremely important for colleges and institutions where they do not have adequate faculty, but they have to run these programs. They may use parts of these for their own teaching learning processes.